In the last hour, Iran has quote-unquote militarized the Straits of Hormuz, through which fully 40% of the world's petroleum is exported. And without that oil trade, the economies of the Western world would grind quickly to a halt. Forget about expensive petrol at the pumps. There wouldn't be any petrol at all. So a matter of some moment. What is the proximate reason for it? Well, it is the growing conviction that having moved a second aircraft carrier into the Persian Gulf and listened carefully to what Donald Trump says and doesn't say, the Iranians believe that the attack upon them will come not from Israel, which is, of course, superbly vulnerable to counter-attack, as Iran showed twice over the last year and a half, but from the United States itself. The big enchilada is coming. That's what the Iranians believe. And it's not helped by Scott Ritter, the one and only Scott Ritter, who in a somewhat peculiar post in the last few minutes has laid out what would be Donald Trump's case for doing so. He says that it has no relevance that Israel has nuclear weapons. Well, that depends what end of the telescope you're looking through. Because if you're Iranian and you're being openly threatened by a country which illegally holds hundreds of nuclear weapons, it is highly relevant indeed. Scott Ritter explains, and we're grateful to him for it, that the United States has low-yield nuclear weapons. I don't know what a low-yield nuclear weapon looks like. Is it Hiroshima or somewhere between Hiroshima and the 1,000 times greater nuclear power of today's nuclear warheads? Maybe 500, would that be low yield? Maybe 100. That would be, therefore, 100 times more powerful than the bomb at Hiroshima. And moreover, Scott argues that this would be necessary if Trump were to achieve his objective of destroying Iran's nuclear reactors, if it was to destroy Iran's peaceful nuclear industry. I've called it that twice now for a reason. The IAEA and those policing the NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which Iran is a signatory to, has been since the time of the Shah, have never reported that Iran was seeking to build nuclear weapons. The Iranian political leadership has repeatedly said that they will not build nuclear weapons. And indeed, there is an outstanding extant fatwa from Khomeini himself that it would be irreligious, blasphemous, to produce nuclear weapons, which are weapons unlimited by time or space. And that would appear not to be good enough for the Trump administration. They believe that Iran is seeking to build a nuclear weapon. I have said many times, going to say it again now, whether you like it or not, if I was leading Iran, I would long ago have furnished myself with a nuclear weapon. Given that I'm being threatened daily, sanctioned, strangled, and warned as to the very existence of my state by not one but two nuclear-armed states, Israel and the United States of America. So I don't know why Iran doesn't want nuclear weapons. I can't be certain that they still do not want them. I can't be certain that they do not even now have them, given that experts say the state of uranium enrichment in Iran is such that within a few days they could put a nuclear warhead on the tip. What I do know is that if the United States bombs Iran with low-yield nuclear weapons, then World War III is a distinct probability, because the Iranians will not take that lying down. Their ballistic missile capability, and for that matter, their anti-aircraft capability, which is largely Russian in origin and state-of-the-art, is more than enough to closed the Straits of Hormuz, militarized in just the last hour. It's more than enough to completely destroy the oil and gas installations of all of America's allies in the Persian Gulf. And if you were Iran, you'd do exactly the same. After all, America cannot attack Iran. Israel has not been able to attack Iran except by using the airspace, the waterways, and in the case of Qatar at least, but probably Saudi Arabia also, and the massive American military bases on the soil of Iran's neighbors in the Persian Gulf. So if you were the Iranians, you'd do the same. And I'm certain that they will. That means there'll be no oil or gas to transport through the Straits of Hormuz, because the Saudi fields, the Qatari fields, the fields of the United Arab Emirates would all be destroyed in an instant. All of their oil and gas infrastructure would be destroyed, and indeed much else. I've said to you many times, don't buy a property in Dubai, because Dubai will not exist if America attacks Iran. In other words, we're talking a very, very serious development. The question is the United States going to launch an attack on Iran, knowing, as they must, all of the foregoing, all that I have just adumbrated as the necessary and ineluctable consequences of such an attack? And then there's Israel. It's unlikely that in its retaliatory posture that the Iranians would not strike Israel. After all, they did so with absolute ease twice over the course of the latest Gaza emergency. Over the last year and a half, Tel Aviv and other parts of Israel have been hit by highly combustible ballistic missiles from Iran, which did not have anything like the warhead tip on it that it could have had, and they were fired in very small numbers. If Iran were to let go all of its arsenal with its maximum explosive warhead potential, then Israel too would cease to exist. It would be another Dubai. Given the seriousness of all this, you must be asking yourself, has the world gone mad? Have the leaders of the West gone mad?